Okay, now that you have gotten everything set up and hopefully you've run a motor, we're now going to test our sensors. So we're going to start with our analog sensors. And to do our tests, I just have a blank task main right now. But I have all my sensors set up in my motor and sensor setup window. And I'm going to go to download to robot. And it's going to pull open the program debug window here. And then what I'm going to do is make sure that I have these debug windows down here along the bottom. And if you don't have those, we want to go into Robot Debugger Windows and make sure that motors and sensors are checked. When they're not checked, you're not going to see those tabs down here. So we want to make sure that we go in and make sure that they're checked. So again, that's unchecked. Go into Robot Debugger Windows and then click it, and now we have the sensor tab. So we're going to first start with the line follower. The line follower is this sensor, and it's an active sensor, so it's actually emitting an infrared signal. So it has an IR LED in it, and then it has an IR detector. So it's bouncing off of a substance that is sitting an eighth of an inch to a quarter inch away. If you take a piece of paper and you hold that piece of paper too far above the build, it's going to register it as if it's a black object. So we can see that in the program, so I'll leave that just like that, and I'll pull this open, and we can currently see actually our values aren't correct because I don't have the battery turned on. When I turn the battery on, you can see that they jump significantly, and one way we can tell is if we have a potentiometer, it should give us readings from 0 when I turn it all the way one way to around 4095 the other way. And if my battery is off, that number is all the way down in the 300s. And that's as high as it goes. So that's a good indicator that your battery is off. I'll just turn my battery back on, and you can see that number is nice and high. But if you look at the line follower value, I'm going to remove the paper now, and you're just going to have to trust me here. But when I remove it, see how it doesn't change a whole lot? Not a lot when I put that white paper on there. But if I move the paper down so it's just above the sensor, so it's about an eighth of an inch above the sensor now, you can see that that value is different. It gives us a significantly lower value, which is what we should get this so we can see kind of both at the same time. Pull this window smaller. Okay, and you can see hopefully with that, it's bigger. So, again, if I look down under here, you can see that that's maybe an eighth of an inch above the top of that sensor. And if I raise it up, you can see that that number changes drastically in that line follower value. And all the way down, it's about 150, and if I go above that, it's too high. So you want to make sure, first of all, that your line follower is in the correct position. If you're using this on a robot, you want it to be about an eighth of an inch off of the surface. So again, there you can see the difference. If you put a black object over the top of it, so I'm just going to use this motor and set it over top of it, you can see the value there. Again, it's about an eighth of an inch off of the sensor, and you can see it's in the 2500 range. And when you remove it completely, it goes up to 3000. Okay, so the black object absorbs light, so it's not reflected, so it gives you a higher value. You check your potentiometer, which we did. So again, we can rotate that. You can see it goes to 0. It'll hit a physical stop on that side, and I can rotate it the other direction. It hits a physical stop, and you can get your maxes and mins there. I currently don't have a light sensor plugged in. The light sensor would give you low values when light is touching it and high values when it's dark. So if you put your thumb over the light sensor, that value should shoot up to around 800. Your touch sensors, so my limit switch is here, so you can see how that goes from a 0 to a 1, and then your bump switch is here, so again you can see how that goes from a 0 to a 1. The quad encoder. So when I turn this clockwise, right now it goes negative when I turn it clockwise, and it goes more positive when I turn it counterclockwise. Well, if I don't like that, for example, if it's on a robot and it's going the wrong direction or counting the wrong direction, I'm just going to flip the two plugs and the way that it's lined up in the cortex. Right now it's in ports 3 and 4. I'm just going to reverse those. Put plug 3 in to 4 spot and 4's into 3 spot. And now when I test it, when I go forward, or when I go clockwise, it goes positive, and when I go counterclockwise, it goes negative. So it allows you to adjust, which way is counting up and which way is counting down. This is the sonar. So if you put your hand over the sonar, it's going to give you different values. And again, this is in centimeters. As I raise my hand up or bring it down. Now, it's only good to about 5 centimeters. If you go anywhere inside of 5 centimeters, it's going to give you sometimes this random value. The 618 is new. Usually when it gives you a bad result, it gives you a -1, which appeared briefly, but again, I haven't seen this much this year. And if it doesn't return a value, again, sometimes it'll return a -1, but a lot of times I've been seeing the 618 number show up when it's not returning a value. So you just have to pay attention to the values that you get out of there. And then finally we have our VEX LED. Right now it's off with a 0, and if I plug a 1 value in here, we should see that comes on. So I can test it. So that's your sensor tab. If you go into your motor tab, you should be able to do the same thing. You should be able to test your motors. This one right here is my left motor, or I'm sorry, my right motor. So if I plug in a power of, let's say, 50, that is my left motor. I can have my motor go. If I put in a -50, it goes reverse, and then 0 stops it. I have a servo here. I don't have an arm on the servo, so you can't really tell, but you can put in values like -127. It would go to a position 0 to another position, and then 127 to the other full side. I don't have a flashlight plugged in. A couple things with the flashlight. If you do have it plugged in, first you need to make sure that when it's connected to the motor controller, that you have your polarity correct. So you need red to red and black to black. And then there's an on-off switch on the top of the flashlight, so make sure that is on. And then you should be able to type in any positive value from 0 to 127 to give you a brightness. And then my left motor,
They didn't let me leave.
type in your left motor, and you can again, here's my left motor rolling, and again I can stop it. So you really want to test all of your equipment, make sure everything works. Sometimes some of the motors aren't working, and they can be bad motors, so replace those, but get everything so it's in working condition on your test bed before you move on. So hopefully that makes sense and helps you do your testing.